Hello everyone, welcome to lecture 9.2, Predictive Processing. So from the traditional perspective, perception is depicted as a passive, stimulus-driven, bottom-up feature detector. So we have the data input here, and then we process it through a kind of feature detector and to extract the features from the data surface and to encode it through a series of bottom-up processing. This model is featured in Shangqun analysis and also generative theory of tonal music. Also, in our previous lecture, we introduced the implication realization theory, which added another top-down processing, which encodes the musical expectations and combines the work pioneered by Leonard Mayer. So in predictive processing, this top-down process is considered as a Bayesian flip to the bottom-up processing, which modulates the bottom-up process by encoding a series of top-down expectations or predictions of the current state. And the downwards flowing prediction works as a filter that copes with noisy and ambiguous sensory inputs. So the top-down prediction by the top-down processing actually changes or modulates what is encoded in the bottom-up processing, which directs our attention to the aspect of the sensory inputs that encodes our expectations and predictions. Therefore, it copes with the messy sensory inputs and constrained our cognition, our perception within the domain that we pay attention to, or our expectation lies. Predictive processing performs a kind of Bayesian flip upon the standard passive or feed-forward image of sensory processing. Instead of trying to build a model of what's out there on the basis of a panoply of low-level sensory cues, these models aim, in effect, to predict the current suite of low-level sensory cues from their best models of what's likely to be out there. So instead of recovering the details of the outside world or of the sensory input, actually we incorporate our predictions to predict what's likely out to be there and to combine this expectation with the sensory inputs. In these models, percepts emerge via a recurrent cascade of top-down predictions that involve most subpersonal expectations spanning multiple spatial and temporal scales. These expectations are probabilistic and concern the present nature and state of the world as presented via the driving sensory signal. So it is this key role for downwards flowing prediction that allows these systems to cope with noisy and ambiguous sensory inputs. The downwards predictions reflect what the system expects, given what it already knows about the world and about the current context. These predictions are combined with incoming sensory data to arrive at better guesses about the signal source. So the predictions are also kind of coordinate with the input sensory data until they coincide. They reach some mutually agreed ground to derive the most likely signal sources. The driving sensory input is here compared at multiple levels to a cascade of downwards predictions and the mismatches send forward prediction error signals that nuance or alter the prediction until a match is found and the sensory data is accommodated. So we can see here that this predictive processing of top-down and bottom-up processes are kind of in a dynamic interactive way of deriving the possible causes in the external world. So the prediction errors can be sent back to the predictions to nuance and alter the predictions to make the prediction suit better to the sensory data. And also the sensory data is constrained by our predictions, and the noisy and ambiguous data that's not expected or predicted will be filtered out. So there are two core features of predictive processing. First is prediction. So prediction involves the use of a unified body of acquired knowledge, a multi-level generative model to predict the incoming sensory barrage. The second is the use of that knowledge is subject to a constant kind of second-order assessment, known as precision estimation, that determines the weighting assigned to specific predictions at all levels of processing and to different aspects of the incoming sensory signal. These weightings reflect the varying reliability in context of differing aspects of the generative model and of the sensory inputs currently available. So when we're talking about perception, so it's about our ability to predict the cause of the sensory input. And this perception is actually regulated by precisions. So the precision is a kind of second-order assessment that puts the weights to specific predictions. And we're going to kind of explain what is this precision, what is this weighting more in our following discussions. So to better understand what is the precision, we refer to this paper that talks about the physiology of predictive processing in our brain mechanisms. It's called cerebral hierarchies: predictive processing, precision, and the Powena. So this figure describes a simple cortical hierarchy with ascending prediction errors and descending predictions. And the prediction errors are weighted by the expected precision, which is the neuromodulatory gating or gain control of superficial pyramidal cells, determining their relative influence on deep cells encoding expectations. So the precision is the weighting or the gain that's we assign to these prediction errors, which actually reflects our confidence of the beliefs or our expectations to the sensory inputs. So we can see that our attention here actually produces the precisions which modulate the bottom-up processing by putting different weights, different gains to the prediction errors to regulate or modulate the our confidence or the belief of the external causes. So here are some examples about predictive processing. The first is this classical example in this visual image. So in order to interpret this figure in the middle, when we read it with the context from left to right, we tend to interpret this figure as the number 13. However, if we put this in the context from top to the bottom, it's usually be interpreted as B because this ABC kind of so in this example, we can see that the context or our expectations actually influence our interpretation of the current external state, even though the figure itself doesn't change here. It's the same figure, but because it's put in different contexts, we interpret it in different ways. In music, there is a similar example, which is known as the key modulation or common chord modulation. So here we can see the same chords, G, B minor, D, E minor. They appear both in G major and D major keys. However, in different contexts, in different keys, they play different roles. So they have different functionalities in different contexts, and they are interpreted differently within the context of G major or if the music is in D major. So here are two short videos talking about the concept of bottom-up and top-down processes. It may give you an intuitive, quick introduction to the concepts. And here is a research paper on predictive processing and the particular case of music. If you are interested, you can check it out. So far we talked about the influence of our expectations. So the influence of the top-down processing in how it influences our perception of the external world, how it changes our perception of the external facts in different contexts. Next topic is on perception and attention, which is drawn from this paper, Attention, Uncertainty, and Free Energy. Perception is the inference about the causes of sensory inputs, and attention is the inference about the uncertainty or the precision of those causes. Attention can be construed as inferring the precision of sensory signals and their causes. So we can see that here the definition of attention is related to the predictive precision, which is the ways the gain control that reflects our confidence of our inferring about the causes. Attention entails estimating uncertainty during hierarchical inference about the causes of sensory input. State-dependent precisions modulate the responses of the error units to their presynaptic inputs. This modulation depends on the conditional expectations about the states. This talks about the details, the mechanism of how attention works, and how the precision works in terms of modulate um the synaptic connections, and in terms of the condition to reflect the conditional expectations of the states. So simply speaking, this involves weighting data in proportion to their estimated precision. And this estimated precision is encoded or interpreted as attention. So intuitively, we can think about that where our attention lies, we put more precision on that thing, on that sensory input. And if we don't pay attention to certain aspects, then even if we get these sensory inputs, so we receive the sensory signals, but we intentionally or unintentionally uh, uh, ignore this part because we are not paying attention to that, because our attention is directed in certain ways, and this attention increases the precision of the sensory inputs that corresponds to our attention or expectation. So in musical scenarios, the selective attention is widely applied in auditory scene analysis. Here are two well-known phenomena. One is called cocktail party effect, where we are able to focus our attention on the person who is talking to us or the conversation we'd like to hear, while filtering out other people's conversations and also the noises from the environment. So in this stage, we actually are receiving all different kinds of auditory streams, all different signals. However, we have this ability to selectively attend to one source or one auditory signal that's meaningful to us. So this is called the selective attention. Similarly, in source separation, so when we are listening to a mixed auditory stream, we are able to distinguish the sounds from different auditory sources, such as the music played by different instruments. And when we listen to music, we are able to flexibly switch our attention to different streams, different instruments, and focus on that single stream while kind of blindly ignoring other auditory information. So here are two videos that introduces the selective attention, divided attention, inattentional blindness, and change blindness. And here I also included two papers on this auditory scene analysis and from this attentional perspective, and also attention awareness and the perception of auditory scenes. So this is all for this lecture. Check out these resources linked below, and hope you like it.